Thank you for
Yeah.
getting on today. Everyone's super, super pumped to have you on. This is going to be recorded, you guys. So if you can't get on, this will be up on YouTube probably at the end of the day tomorrow. So Mel, introduce yourself, how long you've been with FFL, and what you were doing before.
My name is Melissa Montoya. I've been with FFL. June will be officially 2 years. And before this, I was doing mortgages. I did that for about almost 3 years.
Were you a mortgage loan officer? Okay.
Yeah, loan officer.
Okay. So you were a mortgage loan officer during COVID time.
Yeah.
So things were going really, really
Great,
good, right?
yeah.
Making a lot of money, you were thriving. What happened and what made you transition into insurance?
Honestly, I knew like through the mortgage industry, I knew people like Morgan and Ryan. And as things started slowing down in mortgages, I kind of saw Morgan constantly post, right, her success here and everything. And I was like, well, if they went there, like it must be something good, right? Like I've known them. I know they wouldn't go to something that doesn't work or that's not benefiting them. And I was like talking to Morgan, I was like, hey, like, what do you do? She told me, and I was like, shoot, well, like, let's give it a try. I'm in. Sign me up.
I love that. So when you first started out, so almost 2 years ago, were you successful like right out the gate, or did it take a while for you to kind of, I mean, that's a big transition and it's a brand
Mhm.
new industry. And we have a lot of new agents that get on this call that are like fearful of like what that transition might look like. So how was it for you? Like go through like your first 90 days in the business.
I honestly started and I hadn't fully left mortgages when I started. I was doing this like part-time, you could say, but I remember I was like clocked in mortgages and everything at my job, and I would like step away from the phone to dial my leads. I was like, yeah, no, like this is more worth it for me right now.
Yeah.
And my first month, I realized like what I made here is what I was making there in a month, and I made that here in a week. At that point, I literally the next day called my boss and I was like, "Hey, like I'm out." But it was a scary transition just knowing, right? Because there you had a base salary. So you knew that even if you weren't selling or doing loans, right, like you were still gonna get paid. And here it was more so like betting on yourself, knowing like, hey, like I gotta trust that I can do this to know that I'm gonna be successful. But as long as you do that and like you know you can, it's literally like the best opportunity.
Absolutely. I love that. So I mean, there's a ton of mortgage loan officers out there right now that are maybe looking at insurance. What's something that you would tell them? Like, what do you love about the insurance industry compared to the mortgage industry that would be almost like sell them to come over here?
Honestly, the simplicity. Like it's obviously a hard job, right? Like I think I work more now than I ever have, but I love what I do. And it's if you think about it, it's like such a simple and rewarding job. Like we get to do something that benefits people. It benefits us, of course, but it helps them. And the process too is very simple compared to a mortgage, right? You're not the only one dealing with the loan. Like then it has to go through processing and a processor, then it has to go through funding, then they have to get appraisals. And here it's literally you talk to somebody that's already looking for insurance. You help bring out like options that are best for them and best fit their needs. You submit an application 1, 2 days at most, and then you're done.
How long does like a mortgage loan officer have to, like on average, what do you think how long it takes to get paid from a deal?
Honestly, it can take 60 days minimum, 90 days for you to see a payout on a loan that was like submitted, right? Yeah, there was loans that I didn't see payout for 90 days that I was waiting on,
Okay.
or loans that I submitted and would be like, "Oh yeah, like I'm gonna get a payout on this eventually," but would fall off.
And so much can, yeah, so much can
Yeah,
happen. Like they
throughout
don't
the process.
qualify, they need all this paper, like it's a lot.
And it's not like in mortgages, you have to trust that other people are gonna do their job to process your loan, right? Like me submitting a loan didn't mean the processor was gonna do their job and help that fund.
Yeah.
And here it's literally you. Like
Mhm.
you take control over everything.
You write your own checks, basically.
Yeah.
Awesome. I love that. Let's talk about like because you're always on your grind. Like I come to the office, there's not a day that you're not in here, truly. Let's talk about like what your day-to-day looks like. When are you buying leads? What time are you waking up? Like what's your daily routine like here?
Yeah. Honestly, I mean, structure's obviously everything to one's day. I wake up, we have an accountability chat. I wake up at 5 a.m., get some sort of activity in, whether it's like a morning walk, a morning jog, going to the gym, and then listening to a podcast is obviously definitely motivational to start off your day. From there, depending on if I have appointments, I can be online like dialing as early as 6 a.m. due to the time change, right? If not 8 a.m. at latest. And then from there, I just dial. I mean, 5 a.m. or 5 p.m. is supposedly the time, like, okay, that's good, right? 8 p.m. in East Coast. But sometimes I'm just so like dialed into my day that it's 7 p.m. and I'm like, oh my God, like I'm still here and I'm still working. But it's because I enjoy it.
Yeah.
Like, I enjoy talking to people. If you enjoy what you do, like literally time flies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. Was it hard for you, like, when you first came on to be like, okay, I need to invest in myself for this business? Like, I need to buy leads consistently.
It was. It was because I started investing, like, I didn't in when I first started, I didn't invest in leads what I invest now. And I remember I would tell Morgan, I'd be like, "Hey, like I spent $400 on leads this week and I made this much. Like I'm so excited."
Yeah.
And she'd be like, "Dude, what? Like you spent what? Like imagine you spent double that,
Yeah.
triple that." And I'd be like, "Dang, like you're
Yeah.
right." And that's what I started doing. And before I knew it, like my production started doubling, tripling, and now I'm like, I can say that I can trust myself to produce 40K, 30K. I
Yeah.
did hit my first 50K month.
Jeez.
Yeah,
Let's go. How did that feel?
amazing. I was super
The
excited.
bank account's probably looking good.
Yeah, and then that additional bonus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think like that's the biggest thing for people. Like I remember when Hayden first started and I was like never afraid to invest in, like obviously when I first started, it was hard. I had to go through it to get to the point where I was comfortable spending money on leads. But I remember spending like 1,500, 2,000 a week in leads, and Hayden came on and he was spending like 400 bucks. I'm like, dude, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And what happened was when he doubled his investment, it's not that his production doubled. It actually like 4, 5, 6x just because you're doubling it doesn't mean it just doubles. Like you're talking to so many more people, which gives you so much more opportunity
Yeah.
to get more sales and more presentations, most importantly, because
Mhm.
with presentations, you're just getting better. As far as like dials go, so like you run a little bit of everything, and we'll kind of dive deep into your presentation. But as far as dials go, like you're literally dialing pretty much all day long. How many dials would you say that you make a day?
Honestly, it kind of varies, right? But I always say, and I always have leads. I have fresh, like every single day, I have fresh leads to dial, people that I've never dialed before. I have appointments, follow-ups, right, of people that I've dialed and have to follow up with. And then I have those old leads, like that I want to exhaust, right? If they never answered my call, okay, I'm going to shoot them that text, see if that works. So having those three types, like fresh, follow-ups, and just leads you're trying to exhaust, get something out of, I feel like that's what keeps my days busy. Like I'm never able to go through all my leads in one day. And dials, I would say I do around, depending how my appointments go and everything, definitely around like 300, 500 dials a day.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. 3 to 500. Do you use like a auto dialer?
You'd be surprised, but no.
Okay.
I actually do hand dial. Personally, I prefer it. I'm just such like I like to have control of
That's how
things.
I am
Yeah.
too. Yeah.
So like if I want to call somebody back or like hang up on this person, I just like to do things right away. And it's just easy. And I think if you're able to do it, like different things work for different people. But I'm not the type of person that struggles to dial, right?
Yeah.
Like I can trust myself to sit there and actually make the calls. So I think that's why hand dialing like does work for me.
Okay, I love that. As far as follow-ups, like that's one thing I really wanted to touch on with you because like every time I come in here and I talk to you, you're always like, "Hey, I just closed a deal." It was like a follow-up from
Yeah.
2 weeks ago. It was a follow-up from yesterday. I think that a lot of people like in their mind when they don't sell someone right there and then, which it's like if you're gonna sell someone right there and then, great. Like that's the goal. Like that's ultimately what you want to do. But if they don't, I think we've just been told so many times, "Oh, you're probably never going to sell them," that they just kind of give up on that person, even if they said they wanted to think about it, or even if they said they needed to talk to their spouse, kids, wife, whatever it is. What's your process of a follow-up?
Honestly, like I don't mind follow-ups, like you said, right? People think that that's a lost deal. And to me, I like hang up on a follow-up and I'm like, I'm gonna sell this guy next week, or like I'm
Yeah.
gonna sell this guy on Monday. And a lot of that has to do with keeping up, right? Like do what you said you're gonna do. Like
Mhm.
if you set a call, like they asked you, hey, like, yeah, I want to think about it right there. And then I tell them, okay, awesome. Like I totally get it. You want to think about it. What I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna give you a call back Thursday. What time works best for you? And then they'll let me know. I give them a call. Like I actually give them a call. I think that's where a lot of people lose the follow-ups. they say like, okay, I'm gonna give you a call Thursday, and then get so busy in the
They
day
never
Thursday
do.
that they never do, or they call at a different time than they said they were going to,
Yeah.
or things like that. So I think just staying organized with your follow-ups. And I always do like to send like reminder texts like, hey, looking forward to speaking to you tomorrow at 4 p.m. Let me know if for any reason like you need to reschedule or something. But that reminds them, right? Like, oh yeah, she's gonna be calling me.
I love that. So you basically, it's almost like you're booking a follow-up appointment. It's
Yeah.
not just like, oh, I'll give you a call in a couple days.
Yeah.
Okay, I love that. I know some people say like, hey, I only work by appointment only. So makes
Yeah.
it really easy line to kind of transition into booking that follow-up appointment. That's really good. Okay, so you said that you buy basically leads every single day. And I know you're running a little bit of everything. So what does that look like? Like, are you buying, how many leads are you buying every single day? And what would you say that your current spend is on leads?
I would say, and that's kind of like what I base it off of, right? Like my current spend, I spend around like 1,200 to 1,400 a week
Okay.
in leads. And like I said, right, I buy a little bit of everything, whether it's like instant leads, so fresher leads, some like age leads, and a little bit of everything to kind of give you that diversity. But I always make sure, like I said earlier, that to have enough leads, right? You want
Mhm.
to have enough people to call throughout the day.
Yeah, I love that. Let's go through your presentation. Is there a specific lead type that you want to kind of go through a presentation with?
No,
Cool.
any type, yeah.
Cool. Let's do it. Let's say I'm an internet lead.
Perfect. So I would call, right? Like, do you want to start from
Yeah,
the
yeah,
beginning?
we could do
Okay.
that. Okay.
Okay. Do you want to? I ring you, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
call me.
Ring ring.
Hello.
Hi, Nina.
Who's this?
Yeah, this is Melissa. I'm just calling about the form you filled out requesting more information on the life insurance. You listed your date of birth here, March 13, 1990.
I already got this taken care of.
Okay, awesome. That actually makes my job easier. Which one of our carriers did you go with?
Um, I'm not sure actually.
Okay, do you know if you received your policy packet?
I don't think I have. No.
Okay, and you don't remember who you spoke to?
No, I don't remember.
Okay, awesome. Do you know if you got that final approval or you were just looking into quotes?
Oh, actually, I was just looking for quotes and different policies.
Okay, yeah, that's what most people do, right? You're looking into quotes doesn't necessarily mean you got it taken care of. Let me go ahead here. I'm just going to go through a few things and then I'll be able to pull up some awesome options for you.
Okay.
And then I just go in, right? Ask the few questions, verify all the information, and then just depending on what they say, pull up some options.
Okay. Let's just say go through medical questions. We go through all the questions that you ask me. How do you quote? Like, do you typically show three options? What are you showing?
I do, right? And if it's somebody that has been something I like to do is kind of ask, right? To kind of get an idea at first. I'm like, okay, and what had you looking into this? Or was there something like a specific reason you were looking into this to begin with? And then from there, they'll kind of say, like, oh yeah, like I was looking for 250,000 for my
Mhm.
mortgage or something. So that kind of leads the call, like the route I'll take it.
Yeah.
And from there, I do bring up three options. Unless they're specifically like focused on something, I'll kind of limit it to two to just kind of simplify things. And once I ask the questions, one thing I love to do is kind of make sure they understand, right? I'm like, okay, yeah, like, do you know the different types of coverage you're eligible for? And they'll
Mhm.
be like, yeah, well, I was looking into term. And I asked, like, was there a specific reason you were looking into term? Because I like sincerely want them to understand what they're getting.
Yes.
Because so many times you talk to people and they're like, yeah, I have this taken care of, but they don't even know what they
Mhm.
have.
Yeah.
And from there, I pull up the three options, right? And I go over that, like, okay, yeah, this is option one. We would be looking at 30,000 in coverage. This would cover what you were looking for, right? Final expenses, leave a little bit behind to your family. And we would be looking at 120 a month.
Mhm.
And then kind of go through the options. And then I ask them, right, from there. Now, out of the three options we just went through, like, which one feels like will best fit your needs?
The middle one.
Okay, perfect. So what I'm gonna go ahead and do here is I'm gonna pull up the application. Takes about 5 to 10 minutes. We're gonna make sure that you're eligible, and then we'll go from there, make sure that we get this to issue either immediately on a date that works best for you.
Okay, awesome. I mean, it's you have the control, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Okay, one thing with like brand new agents specifically running like internet leads or let's say ethos leads, you don't really know what's on the other side of the phone. So, like, when you're running specifically mortgage protection, you know what they're looking for. They're looking
Mhm.
to get their mortgage protected. When you're running a final expense lead, you know specifically they're looking for funeral and final expense whole life coverage. Now, with running ethos or with running internet leads, you don't really know what you're getting. So some people, yeah, they might be looking for $1 million of coverage, but
Yeah.
they might have active cancer or they might have had a heart attack 2, 3, 4 years ago. So like, what's the best way to like, when you get on the phone with someone and they're like, yeah, I'm looking for $500,000 of coverage, but you knowing that they're not going to be able to qualify for that, how do you kind of pivot and explain to them like, hey, this is going to be your option actually?
Yeah. I start off obviously asking like why. Like a lot of people and like the 1 million, right? People are always like, yeah, I want 1 million in
Yeah.
coverage. And I'm like, why? Like, do you actually need 1 million? Most
Yeah.
of the time they don't, right? They make 30,000 a month or
A
a
year.
year. Yeah, a year. So asking like the why, like why they're looking into that. And from there, like I said earlier too, like you want them to understand what they're eligible for and what's
Mhm.
out there. So I explained to them, right, like because of your history, right, the cancer, you thankfully are still eligible for coverage. And I'm going to be able to pull up some options here for you. And they usually, like, if you explain it to them good enough, they'll understand, right? Like, yeah, okay, I had cancer. I'm not going to be
Yeah.
eligible for that.
Yeah.
So just making sure that you're explaining things to them, I think is what helps them not,
Throughout, like, the
yeah,
process of the presentation, so that way it's not like, oh, they're expecting 500,000 or
yeah,
1,000,000, and then you get to the quotes, you're quoting them 20, 30, 40,000. Then they're like, "Wait, I
yeah.
want 500,000." But let's just say someone's, like, super adamant on, "Hey, I really want 500,000."
What I do in that case, right? Like kind of knowing your carriers, what you have. So in that case, if I know I can get them whole life, kind of like Ethos, right? Ethos has a whole life that offers up to 100,000.
Yeah.
I'll kind of be like, okay, awesome. So we can definitely get you 500,000 in coverage and just finding something that works, right? So this is going to be 100,000 in whole life coverage. That's obviously going to be permanent coverage, never expires. And what we can do is looking into adding additional coverage like accidental, right? To get you
Mhm.
that total of 500,000.
Yep.
And sometimes people, even though and I make sure that they understand, right? This would cover you in the case of an accident. It would pay out the full 500,000 that
Mhm.
you're looking for. And them hearing that
Just that
500,000,
number,
yeah, they're just
yes.
like, okay, yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, okay, that's really good. As far as like objections, so obviously you're running a lot of presentations, you're running a lot of appointments. Let's say we already kind of did some in the beginning of the call, the intro, like, oh, I already got this taken care of. Let's say I don't feel comfortable giving you my social.
Honestly, social, depending on how you started the call, it's kinda like, for me, I feel like I rarely get that social objection because I make it
You
known
set it
from,
up.
yeah, I
Mhm.
make it known from the beginning what we're gonna do, right? Letting them know at the beginning, yeah, and the awesome thing about this coverage is that you're not gonna have to go through a medical exam, right? What they'll do is when we fill out the application using your name and social, we'll be able to pull up what's called your MIB report. That'll just show them a history of any prescriptions you're currently on or have been prescribed, and that's what they'll use to determine eligibility. And
Perfect.
from there, like when I come to social, they already knew, right? So it's not like, why are you asking me for
They're
this?
already
Yeah.
comfortable with it. Okay, what about banking? Are you setting that up from the beginning too?
Sometimes I do. Sometimes like when I can sense that they're gonna be hesitant or something, I do let them know, like, okay, yeah, and what we'll do is go ahead and submit this application, make sure that you are eligible and get approved. Once approved or towards the end, it will ask us, right, if we want coverage to be effective immediately or if there's gonna be a specific day that works best for you. And that just kind of gives them an idea, right? Okay, they're gonna be asking. Sometimes they'll even ask me, oh, are you gonna need my banking information? Like
Yeah.
they'll already get that idea. But if I do get the banking objection, like let's say I'm going through the application and I do get that objection, I just simply tell them, right? Like this is used for two things, right? One, to make sure that there's no insurance fraud going on, that it is your account, you're going to be paying for your insurance.
Mhm.
Because if it's somebody else's account, we need to make sure that we specify that on the application.
Okay, love that.
And then two, just to make sure that you have legal US funds, right? Because non-US citizens or so can't get life insurance here.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's good.
And
Okay.
then most of the time they're okay with it. Sometimes you do get the, "Oh, yeah, like, I don't have it on me right now." And from there, you kinda just have to pull out some options, right? Like, do you do online banking
Yeah.
or
I think that's like when, especially for a new agent, it's like very, obviously very intimidating just getting on the phones and asking for the social, asking for the
Yeah.
banking. But like, I think that with new agents, when they get to the banking and someone tells them like, oh, I don't have that in front of me, they're so quick to, and I've been there, you've been there, we're so quick to just be like, okay, no worries,
Yeah.
we can schedule a follow-up. And then what happens? They never pick up the phone. Maybe they do in Mel's situation. She's a follow-up queen. She is persistent, but um what they'll do is just hang up. So like,
Yeah.
what's your advice to like a new agent that gets to banking where someone won't give them the banking right away? Like, how do you ask for banking
I
first?
would say if you don't make it a big deal, it won't be a big deal to him. And that's what I always tell the agents that I bring on, right? Like if you're not nervous, they won't be nervous. Like
Yeah.
what you say, like you portray, right?
Yeah.
And I just simply ask, right? I'm going through what's your name or for banking, right? Like, okay, awesome. And do you want this to be effective immediately, or is there going to be like a specific day, like the first, that you would rather have this become effective, or whatever the case is? And from there, I literally just let them know, okay, and what account would you want on file? Keep in mind, this is something that you can always change, but for the purpose of the application, we do need an account and routing number. Go ahead whenever you're ready.
Money.
Yeah. And
That's
even
super
like
assumptive.
when it comes to social too, it's just like you're going through a list of questions already that they're so accustomed to like answering, right? Like, okay, this is the spelling of your name and verify your date of birth, address. And then it's literally like, okay, now go ahead and verify your social.
Yeah.
And they just like go with
They
it.
just do it because you've already prepped them for that. And the
Yeah.
way you ask it is very important. Like for me, I've never like, the order of the application. Let's just say it's an Americo application. It's like first name, last name, date of birth, address, social.
Yeah.
I always wait till the very
Very
end
end.
to ask the social just because like you're getting more yeses from them. They're more inclined to give you a yes after they've already given you all that
Yeah.
information. So
I
that
kind of
is
like
good.
asking, like my form of asking, and I always make this like specific to agents too, right? Like I say, okay, are you a US citizen? They say yes, no. What state were you born in?
Mhm.
And then from there, I'll ask, do you have an active valid driver's license? And then they say yes. Amerigo doesn't ask for the number just to say, but I always ask just in case you need a pivot, right? Like,
Yeah.
okay, and what's that driver's license number? And from there, I asked social. I think because they're just so inclined, like, okay, they had to pull up their ID. They already read their number.
I like that.
Yeah.
So even if the app doesn't ask, you'll still ask for that.
Yeah.
That's legit, especially because sometimes they do need it. Like they might pull something.
Later on
Yeah,
need it. Yeah.
that is, if you're taking notes, definitely write that down because that is a great one. Let's kind of like pivot to persistency. You actually have amazing persistency. Like I looked at it before
Yeah.
we got you on the call because like one of the most important things, it's not about what we submit, it's not about what issue pays, it's simply about what sticks
Stick.
on the books. What are some of your tips to like make sure that clients are actually keeping their policies on the books?
Honestly, I think that when you do things like with good intention, right, and you're helping your clients because you actually want to help them, like you create a relationship with them. Like my clients will literally feel so comfortable and they'll text me like, hey, like my payment's not gonna draft this date. Can we change it?
Mhm.
And I think just creating like relationships with your clients, making sure that they know that they can call you or text you if they need anything or want to make changes, and making yourself available. Like I know people, they'll see a call from a client and then not answer, never call them back, and that makes them lose trust,
It's
right?
red flags.
Yeah.
It's
Like
like,
it's like, okay, I got a policy with you, I'm paying, but you're not answering my
yeah.
call, or like I don't know what to do.
Yeah, it's like you
So
just get in a new relationship
yeah.
and like the person, like you're still kind of sketched out by them. You're calling them at 10 p.m.
Yeah.
and they're not answering the phone. Like that's
You're
red
like, what do
flags.
you, yeah.
Yeah.
No, yeah. So I think that's one of the main things, right? Like I make sure and I tell them right before ending my calls, I'm like, make sure you save my number because if you ever need anything, need to make any changes, like I'm always here to help. And also, I think the fact that throughout the application, right, I made sure they understood what they were getting, what they're going to be paying.
Mhm.
So making sure that it is something they'll be able to afford and keep long term, right?
Yes, that's huge. Huge. I think also like not if you know someone's not going to get the policy or if you know have that feeling like someone's going to cancel, like ask them like, "Hey, are you serious about this coverage or is this coverage important for you to get?"
Yeah.
Just cuz like I'll avoid a chargeback at any
Same. Yeah.
cost, right? So, no, that's very very good. Let's say a policy does lapse or, you see someone called to cancel. Do you call that client and follow up with them?
100%.
Okay.
I think that's one of the main things. Like staying organized is one of my biggest things. Like first day, like somebody starts, I'm like, make a sales chart. Like you're
Yes.
gonna want to keep track of everything.
Yes.
I keep track of everything, right? As soon as I submit a sale, like I put that in my sales tracker, and that shows me I highlighted in my own little way, like this has been paid out, this is still in underwriting, and so on. And I do like checking your emails, right? Because you'll receive emails from carriers letting you know, hey, this payment didn't go through.
Yeah.
And I make sure that right there and then, like, I call that client, like, hey, like, it looks like there was a problem with your payment. Did we need to change the date or something? And you're most of the time able to save it because it could just be that they had to change banks or
Yeah.
something simple, right?
Mm-hmm.
They changed accounts and they forgot to update it.
That's yeah, the other day I had one that I called because it said canceled and
Hmm.
I'm calling them and they're like, I never canceled. Like, what is it? It was literally just their banking.
Yeah.
That's all it came down to. So like you don't know unless you're organized and unless you're like actually keeping track of that. Then another like really important reason to keep track of your business is for annual reviews. Have you done those?
Yes and no. Yeah.
Most people are like, yeah, I follow up, but honestly, like there's so many sales. Like I bet you could pull some because you write a lot of business.
Yeah.
You could definitely pull some and help
From
cover
doing them. Yeah.
100%.
And keeping track of everything, like I keep track of like I make little notes, right? Like if this person told me, "Oh yeah, like I might want to up my coverage later on."
Yeah.
Like I keep track of that and literally 6 months out, 3 months out, whatever it is, I'm like, "Hey, we had previously spoken about like you potentially wanting to increase your coverage.
Yeah.
Is that still something you wanted to do?" And a lot of times they'll say like, "Oh
Yeah.
yeah, like thank you for reaching out. Like, yeah, what did this look like again?" And then that's another sale right
Yeah.
there.
Well, it's because like when you're on the phone with them initially, like if they, they might like the gold program or the silver program, but they go with the bronze because that's all they can afford at the
Yeah.
time. Like those are the ones, like maybe mark those in a specific color on your tracker because
Yeah.
those ones you can always go back to a year, 6 months, whatever it is from now and follow up. So I love that, Mel. Good work. As far as the goals that you have on the production side and on the team building side, what are some goals that you have for this year?
One of my main goals from the beginning, right? And I even told you is Hall of Fame.
Yes.
And which I'm on track for. I see
Yes.
myself, my head
I
on a
saw
little car. Yeah. I'm like,
Yay.
yes, I'm on track. So I would say that's like one of my personal goals. Team wise is obviously to grow a bigger team right now. I'm about to finally hit logo, thinking about logo
Yay. Well,
name.
you
Yeah.
hit it last month. You have to hit it 2 months
No,
in a
I
row.
already hit it.
Oh,
Week
you
3 is
did.
107. Yeah.
Let's go, baby. Do you have a team name or do you not want to say
No,
it yet?
no, I don't know. Well, I have options,
Okay.
but we're still thinking.
Don't
Yeah.
tell anyone because they
Yeah,
might.
it's a secret.
Yeah. But that's amazing. Okay, so logo, what's your team goal number wise by the end of the year or agent wise?
I would say number wise, 1,000,000.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah.
shoot, let's
Yeah.
go. I love that. Well, I have no doubt like you are absolutely going to crush it. You're already on track for Hall of Fame. I always tell people too, like the biggest and best recruiting tool, like people are always like, what are you saying? What are you doing? It's going to be your own personal production
Mhm.
because it works. You can show people what you're doing, not just tell people what you're doing. Mel can pull up her bank account and say, hey, I wrote 50 grand in a month. Like, look what I
Yeah.
profited off of that, more importantly. So, good work, Mel. Thank you so much for getting on. If someone wants to get a hold of you, whether they're in the mortgage industry, no matter what industry they're in, if they want to work with you, what's the best way for them to get a hold of you?
Text or even like Instagram, both. I'll answer to everything.
Awesome. What's your Instagram handle?
MEL, so Mel_Mon, MON.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for getting on
Yeah,
today.
thank
You
you for
crushed it.
having me.
Everyone, Mel crushed it. Let's freaking crush these last, 2, 3 days of the month, and let's have a massive April. Talk soon. Bye-bye.